Hi, I'm Daniel Fisher here at Sweetwater Sound, and today I'm going to show you how to make ambient music with your guitar by using effects pedals. I have 5 of them here, and I've already done a video on making ambient music with keyboards and effects pedals, and they're going to be similar. There's a little bit of overlap. Most of these pedals are mono, whereas I tried to make more of the other pedals for the keyboard ones stereo, but you can watch both and get tips from both of them. Now, I should say right from the top that I am not an ambient expert. I don't know the history, things like that. My only qualifications are that when I make keyboard and guitar demos for pedals and effects and things like that, people often write in that, wow, that's really great ambient music. So I'm just taking their word for it. What I will show you today is what I do with pedals and how I think about using pedals to create what people are saying is ambient music. So first off, I got to say, I am not a guitar player. I play one on YouTube, but if it's encouraging, think of it this way. If you're 10 times better than me, then you should be able to make 10 times better ambient music. So something to aim for. So first of all, we'll talk about the guitar. This is the new Guild Polara. This is the Thayil Signature Edition. Very excited to get to play that. And then the 5 pedals. I have the Gamechanger audio. It's the Bigsby. Basically, it lets you do the same trick with a whammy bar, except in pedal form, and I really, really like it. There's the Superego Plus, which I've always been a big fan of. I have several videos using this, and this basically can hold a sound and then manipulate it in beautiful ways. You can go from one chord to another chord with glide. You can create just stunning ambient textures, and then the Ego Plus, the Superego Plus, has many effects to choose from that go into the loop of what's frozen. So you can have a different effect on what's frozen than what you're playing. So beautiful stuff. And then the next pedal is Soft Focus by Cattle and Bread. It's your basic reverb. It's a very ambient reverb. It's mono in, mono out. So good for guitar. And above and beyond the regular reverb, though, it does modulation, which means it takes the feedback of the reverb and gently modulates the pitch, which very much adds to the sound of that. And then there's another feature that adds an octaver to the return of the reverb. So every time the reverb is feeding back, it's adding little shimmers of octave above it. So very, very beautiful. The next one, very exciting, the Boss Delay Machine, the DM101. This is like a history of Boss pedals. And so it has a knob that lets you choose all different types. It's mono in, stereo out, and I can do modulation on it. I can do very interesting patterns of delays, things like that. And it moves in real time as you change the delay like an analog delay does. So that's very exciting to me. And then the last one is the Cloudburst Ambient Reverb by Strymon. Again, a beautiful reverb that also has shimmer and mod. So I have both of those. We're going to compare and contrast a little bit. The key thing, though, is the mono and stereo part of all this. So obviously the guitar is monaural. It only has one channel. I'm going into the Bigsby, which is mono. I'm going into the Superego, which is mono. Going into the Soft Focus, which is mono. But then I'm going into the mono in of the delay machine, but that has the ability to come out stereo. And I'm going stereo out of that into the Cloudburst, and then stereo out of that directly to the recorder. And so that's what you're hearing. And you really want to think about that for guitar. If you're mixing mono and stereo pedals, whenever possible, if the arrangement works out, try and put the stereo pedals at the end so that obviously, one, you get a stereo image at the end. And if you have 2 stereo pedals, try to have one stereo pedal feed a pedal that takes stereo in. So even if the last pedal's off, the next pedal is also stereo. And in the keyboard one, I tried to do that all the way through with lots of stereo. So now I'm going to show you a couple tips for creating ambient. And again, I'm no expert. I just make stuff people like. And I'm going to show you that with the delay. And so I have a basic simple delay here, just a quick repeat. And you'll notice that I have the intensity or feedback or repeats, they all mean the same thing. I have it up pretty high, so it's going very long. And all this is practice. Just turn any delay on and set it up kind of like how I have it here. And just keep trying to play riffs and scales over the delay and see what stuff you like and what stuff you don't like. Obviously, pentatonic scales, major scales, minor scales, as long as you stay to that scale, it's going to be pretty, but you also need to learn how to play rhythmically over your own delays to create these nice chordal patterns and stuff. So I'm going to do that now. I'm just going to noodle a little bit over this delay and listen how some things are pretty, some things are not. And I'm not even telling you which ones to use, just find your own scales and chords and patterns and riffs that work well over delay. And then you'll find that that also works for these really ambient reverbs as well. So fun with delays, and just keep doing that. And you'll find over time that there are just things you really like going to long delays with lots of feedback and reverbs with long decay times. So now I'm going to turn on the soft focus by Cattle and Bread. And first I'll turn off the modulation and the Symph. And now it should just be a plain old reverb, but I have a lot of it going on. And now I'm going to turn up the modulation, and the pitch of the reverb is going to sway slightly, and that's going to give you some chorusing, some thickness, and just beauty. And now I turn up the octave or shimmer. And now you're starting to really make thick ambient sounds that are filling up the whole spectrum. So you hear a little bit of the Bigsby there. I'll be using that more in a second because I'm going to use the Superego to hold chords or hold notes, and I'm putting this after that, so I'll be able to bend the whole thing. I currently have it set to an octave, which is much wider than you could do on a regular Bigsby, especially going up. If you push on the top part of this, you can bend upward, and I'm going to be able to go a whole octave, which is great. So first, I'm turning off everything. Should be just dry, okay? And now I'm turning on the Superego, and I have it set in a mode where as I play notes louder than a certain threshold, it will start dropping the old sounds that it's holding and glide to the new sounds that I'm playing. So currently have the effects off. I have a little phase shifter going, but it's not kicked in yet. And so now I'm going to just turn the Superego on again without it and with it. And now I'll kick in some of the soft focus with the shimmer on and a little bit of modulation, and that should be really pretty. Now, all of that's been in mono, and it feels like it's around. It feels 3D because there's so much modulation and very interesting things going on. But after a while, you'll start learning the difference between complex modulation and stereo, which is a very different thing. And I'll show you that now as I turn on the next pedal. And now I'm going to add some of the delay machine, and I'm going to put that in a wide mode, also with modulation. So I've got a lot of modulation going on here, which is beautiful. And then some stereo-ness, because it's in a wide mode, going into a stereo in, and then it's doing its own stereo stuff. So there should be a lot of just stereo beauty and things moving around. So we'll do that now. And now the last thing I'm going to do is add phase shifting from the Superego, and very, very slow phase shifting. That's the key. Everything needs to move slow. You don't want your effects to be, you don't want to hear the repeat of it. You don't want to hear the LFO speed. You want it to just always be a little different over time. So now I'll kick in the phase shifter. Now, obviously, I could do this all day, and I really could because, I don't know, for me, it's just so much fun to make this kind of stuff. But the key thing is you're trying to do things long, slowly. Don't make a lot of changes. And keep practicing with just a delay to find out what kind of things you like layered over other things. And when you do turn knobs, or in this case, move this pedal thing, which obviously normally would be on the floor, but I wanted you to see what I'm doing. And that is just don't use everything from minimum to maximum. A lot of people, like when they get like the Digitech whammy pedal or something, it's always, it's like a switch, right? Don't do that. Find out where all the magic is in little turns. And then one last thing on the delay. When you have a nice echo and you have your intensity or feedback or repeats or all the same thing, don't turn that quickly. Turn it a little bit. Listen to what it does. Turn it a little more. Listen to what it does. So I'll just make a little pattern here. Subtle. And the key thing is if you do it right, then it will create your own fade for you. You don't have to turn a mix or anything. It will just fade out at a very predictable pace that you left it on, depending on what your intensity or feedback or repeats are. So anyway, just a quick little showing of ambient music via guitar, how to use pedals to do it. If you have any further questions about any of these pedals, this guitar, please contact your Sweetwater sales engineer. My name is Daniel Fisher. Thank you very much for watching.